Holy cow, we're back! The No Name Cinema Society, episode 32. Hello, everybody. I am Jonathan Betzler. I am one of your hosts this evening. And if you've been following, then you know that I've just been working on a feature film as a first AD. I work on an indie horror feature, and we just wrapped a few days ago. So I'm exhausted. I'm practically a zombie. As is the case frequently when I wrap a feature. Very tired. My co-hosts have no idea what it's like, but I've got my favorite beer at my side here. I'm gonna advertise a little goose. I'm excited to introduce my co-host after this sip. I've also got the hat, the Olympic hat, because it's Olympic time right now. But anyway, we're here to talk about Florence Foster Jenkins, who, as you'll see, is well, let me just say, if us among the No Name Cinema Society had Florence Foster Jenkins, it would be my co-host, Davie Dave Joseph. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
And you're in New York still, is that correct?
I am in Big Apple.
A swank hotel room, out of town from Charlotte for the second straight episode.
Yep, living the dream.
Living the baller lifestyle like I frequently do, back and forth between LA and New York, but you're Charlotte and New York, it seems, and also Detroit every now and then.
Yeah, it's been a while for Detroit, but yeah.
And if Davie is our Florence Foster Jenkins, then the guy that runs around trying to hide the bad reviews from him is our own J Money.
Hello.
How are you, J Money?
Hey, everybody. I'm also living the dream, but it's a different kind of dream in Brooklyn. It's a tougher, grittier dream.
Well, you're always in Brooklyn, so there's nothing sort of new to this situation.
This is true. This is a dream that I never wake up from. Never, ever.
Well, and so that makes me, out of the three of us, the brilliant pianist who holds everything together. So anyway, before we move on, let's take a look. What's that, J Money?
Not the first time you've been called that, I'm sure.
I said pianist. Pianist.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Let's take a look at our evening schedule overall, shall we? We got as usual, we got a full night here. A very exciting movie discussion. Starting right now with the discussion of the new release, Florence Foster Jenkins, which came out just about 6 days ago. And then at 8:30, 5:30 Pacific, we have our second Iranian film in the last 3 episodes, a film called A Separation. And then at 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock Pacific, we do a little look back at the 90s with The Usual Suspects. And then at 10 o'clock, 7 o'clock Pacific, we have our latest sound-off, number 16, I believe, in which there's a lot of Davie. I'm not going to lie. Davie's diatribe, Davie digs in, and I'm going to do a top 5 Kevin Spacey films based on our discussion of The Usual Suspects coming up this evening. So stay tuned for all of that, a full evening. And right now we've got about 20 more minutes or less to talk about Florence Foster Jenkins. So let me get straight to the summary, shall I? You guys okay with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Florence is a kindly aging benefactor of the arts in bad health who gets inspired to fulfill her dream of singing opera. This dream spirals out of control when all the well-paid sycophants around her convince her that she's better than she is. She becomes sort of an inadvertent success, a la William Hung or Rebecca Black, to put it in a more modern perspective, and St. Clair, her much younger husband, has to scramble to keep her from knowing why she is so successful. How do you guys feel about that summary?
Nailed it.
Nailed it!
Really good.
All right. Have you guys ever given me a thumbs down on the summary, though?
We're usually pretty nice to you, JB.
As long as I don't have to do it, I'm happy.
You mean you wouldn't tell me if it was bad?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was bad.
Okay, well, I guess that answers that question pretty directly. And that brings us, speaking of, that brings us to opening thoughts. And J Money, you get to go first.
Okay. Well, you know, in the grand tradition of us seeing these movies, I didn't really look ahead of time to see what this movie was. Didn't watch any trailers. I basically knew it only from the poster, which I saw maybe a week before I actually went to it. So, having said that, I was very pleasantly surprised with what I saw.
Okay, Davie Joe.
I thought that the performances are good, the direction was good, and it's utterly unfunny and uninteresting.
Interesting. So, with that in mind, where would that put us in that on the Davie scale? Would it go right around here?
No. No.
Is that too high?
Yeah, that's too high. Would you say it was too bright?
Yeah, we'll go too bright. Too bright.
Well, I mean, maybe we should look at this one. It takes a while to pull these up.
It's
no.
I'll tell you what. It's either brutal or too. It's close to brutal. Let's go brutal.
It's lower on the Davie scale. Okay. Wow. All right. Good to know. Cool. And why did you just thought it just wasn't funny enough for you?
Well, I mean, it's one unfunny joke that just doesn't end. And it's just, yeah, all right, I get it. She can't sing. I get it.
So this is where we land on the Davie scale, unfortunately.
Danzig.
Okay, well, I brought a friend to the film with me on Monday, and I was, barely awake, just having wrapped the film. But he really liked it, and I have to say, finally, we get to talk about a good movie on this show, at least for the new releases, and it's been a long time, I think, for me, that I've liked a movie as much as I've liked this one. I think all year, but we'll have to go back and figure that out. But anyway, I think for me, Stephen Frears is one of my. He's directed a film that's on my top 5 all time. I think he's sort of an unheralded master if you look at a lot of his work, and I think this film is no different. I mean, I think it's a very precise film. What do you guys think about some of the directorial choices here? Davie, you yourself mentioned that it was very well directed. What made you say that?
I mean, again, there were a number of shots that I enjoyed, and I thought that I thought that the maybe it's just because it's Meryl Streep. She's always an incredible actress, but the performances were exceptional, and I think that that's a sign of great direction also.
Right, which is something you learned on this show.
Thank you.
J Money, anything on direction?
Well, I
before
just
I dig deeper.
Well, yeah. I mean, in general, this is it's such a tight, kind of clockworky movie. I mean, especially I think if you're going to get into this level of farce, you've got to really control the reins, and I think that he did. I think that it really kind of all fell into place. So I would credit the direction from that point of view. I mean, in terms of the performances, I'll just briefly say that I thought they were also very good, but you're also working with some really good actors to begin with. So, I don't know how much of that...
And some decent roles. I mean, the roles themselves, offered a lot for them to do.
Yeah.
So, I want to table the performances for a second, because that's its own little section. But, I mean, basically what you're talking about is... precision. I think each without being overly flourishy, I don't think there's any shots that called too much attention to the director, like something like Tarantino would do, or to some degree Soderbergh. These directors that kind of call attention to the camera. Stephen Frears is one of those that sort of sits back and tells a story with a camera in an unobtrusive way. But the story's always moving, and each shot seems right for the moment. We talked about that to some degree with Steve McQueen's Shame being a similar example. I also like that you use the word farce. I think that one of my favorite scenes involves Florence's surprise visit, if you know what I mean. And that's total farce and totally well handled, I thought. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that once I fell into that sort of rhythm of it, that's when I really started to appreciate it more, because it is a farce. It's a ridiculous movie. You kind of take it at face value for that.
But I mean, like, it is a true story. Like, there is something. I mean, like, what's almost even more interesting about it is the reality of it too.
Yeah, it's based on a true story. There are certain differences in terms of what actually happened, but yes, this
Well,
character.
I mean, I was familiar with the story before the movie was going to be made. So I mean, I think that the story itself, the true story itself, seemed farcical but true, and I think that movie captured that.
That's interesting because when I was thinking about this later, I was thinking about how the true story itself is actually in some ways a lot more tragic.
Well, I mean, like the movie, yes, yes and no. I mean, if it depends on how and maybe we'll get into this a little later. I wanted to open up the can of worms on some of the themes of the film, but I mean, like, the fact, you know what? Let's table that because it all depends on your perspective, and I think the film looks at it from a couple different ways, and I think it's open to interpretation to some degree, which I appreciate. I'm trying not to give too much away, even though people know the ending, but I mean, I think it's the way that the filmmakers handle the ending that is interesting. J Money, you there? Davie Joe, you there?
I'm here. I guess we lost J Money.
Okay, all right. So it's not, as long as it's not just me. Now, I mean, in terms of these farcical moments, Davie Joe, you didn't find those funny, it seems?
No, not at all. I didn't. I
appreciate your bluntness.
The movie, it was kind of, I think, the same criticism that a lot of people had of Keanu. It's just you either find the joke funny or you don't, and I think it was kind of silly, and I could see it maybe once or twice, but I didn't carry a movie to me.
I think what I appreciated too is I think there is a lot of depth to it, but I want to stay on direction for a little bit more because I want to bring out something that we talk about sometimes. We talk about tone sometimes, and I think one of the most difficult things to do in working with tone is to balance comedy and drama. And I think he did a great job with that because I mean, like, there is these comic farcical moments, but then there's some moments with truth and heart. And I mean, like J Money talked about the tragic elements, or it could be viewed as a tragic element, a tragic story to some degree. And I think this film balanced that out. So for all the parts that you didn't find funny, did you at least find some of the dramatic moments or the more truthful, heartfelt moments? Did any of those ring true for you?
Yeah, no, they absolutely did, and part of it was me, I think, getting just kind of wrapped up in Meryl Streep's performance. She really, because I mean, there were times when I would snap from being just utterly irritated with the singing, and
you do realize the singing was supposed to be bad, though, right? You're on board with that?
Obviously, I do, but it's not. It's just like it's just when you've heard the same joke 20 times, it's like, yeah, I got it. All right, I get it.
Well, I mean, she doesn't sing that much, all told, to me.
I mean, they go back to that a number of different times in the movie. It's. I mean, if you think about all the rehearsals, and every time. Mr. McMoon is cringing and all right,
J Money is back. Welcome, sir.
I'm back. Hello.
We're talking about how the director did a terrific job of balancing the comedy and the drama. And do you have any thoughts on that?
Good.
What's that?
Crude or good?
Good job.
Good job.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of what makes this movie probably better received than it could have been. I think that these are really broad, sort of cartoonish people that he was working with, and the actors themselves managed to bring an extra level of I guess, emotional genuineness to them, which helped sort of counterbalance some of the sillier aspects of it. And sometimes that kind of stuff doesn't really work well. In this case, I think it actually did. In this case, I think the emotional connection to these people actually really buoyed the rest of the farcical nature of it, like grounded it in a way that if it had just been a purely silly movie, I don't think I would have liked it nearly as much.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, I did want to I mean, like one scene I think that I can point to that I think does a terrific job, even within the scene itself, is the scene where they wind up playing piano together. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, you mean at his apartment?
In McMoon's apartment, yeah.
No.
I mean, I thought that was just beautiful.
It's really touching. I mean, it's touching to see how everybody's relationship sort of revolves around Meryl Streep's character, Florence Foster Jenkins, because I think initially the audience would believe that she's this woman that's being taken advantage of, and it turns out it's a little bit more complicated than that. It turns out that people are a little bit more complexly related to her, or relating to her in this movie. So that makes it more interesting. That gives it some legs.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about themes, and we're running out of time already because that's what we do. But I mean, I almost feel like I don't want to spend too much time on performances because I almost feel like it's a given. Like I think we all agree the performances are outstanding. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree, but I think it definitely could have been terrible. I mean, I think that I went in thinking like this could be an incredibly this could be performances that are by aging actors who are just kind of like there and filling out and doing something that's kind of silly and being way too obtuse and relying on this kind of caricature to carry them. But it wasn't like that in the end. It wasn't. It was much more nuanced. I think it could have been terrible, I guess is what I would say. And then in the different actors' hands, people that were definitely not paying as much attention to these roles as these actors were, it would have been terrible. It's just that everything seemed to click really well between them.
Yeah, I mean, Meryl Streep is always good. Hugh Grant's the best role he's had in years. But I mean, the real surprise for me, and I kind of liken it to Riz Ahmed's performance in Nightcrawler, in the sense that these really unique choices that really land for me is Simon Helberg from The Big Bang Theory. I wanted to just take a minute to point him out because I think he's a real standout for, I think the choices of Streep and Grant are given within the script. I think his choices are unique, and I don't know if any other actor would make those same choices the way that he did, creating this very unique character that could have been a caricature that he managed to clutch. He grabbed it from the caricature depths and make him like well-rounded and three-dimensional. And it's the performance that surprised me because he's the one I expected the least from. And again, really small, detailed choices that really define this character. So I just wanted to point him out. And it sounds like you guys agree with me. Davie?
Yeah. No, I thought he was great.
J Money, you look like you were nodding a little bit.
Oh, yeah. No. Big Bang. He made it through. Yep.
Okay. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the themes with the time remaining. So, because, I wanted to talk about the editing, too. I have some very specific thoughts about the editing, particularly at the end. But I'll have to table that, and maybe we'll get to it. Because I think the themes are more important to dig under with our remaining, 2 minutes or something? 3 minutes. So what is you talked about the tragedy of the film. I think that there's many different ways to look at it. I think about the meaning of, the meaning of success, what success truly means, the meaning of happiness to some degree. I also think, it's interesting, they had this sort of Christian McKay character, that reporter from the New York Post, that sort of had this, while he, the film could view him as an antagonist, he's sort of saying something true about vanity projects in general, you know what I mean? And is it okay to use your influence to do something just for you in that way? Or, is that inflicting yourself unnecessary? Is that so self-absorbed, that it's inappropriate to do that? I think you can look at it a different way, and also there's a line in the film that sort of sums it up. You look at it as tragic, the true story, but you can also look at it the perspective of, she had one night of glory. That could be looked at as triumphant. So, there's lots of different ways to look at it, and I think the film does have this sort of tragicomic spin. At the end, it's not. I don't think it's all peaches and roses at the end. So, with all those things that I said, what's the takeaway for you guys?
Well, to me, I think, especially because, JB, you and I are kind of in creative pursuits to begin with, my takeaway was just about seeing somebody who has to pursue something, creatively to the nth degree that might even be detrimental to them, this is somebody that needs to find some sort of creative satisfaction in what she's doing, even if it's not necessarily. I mean, I guess to your point, is she pushing herself on these audience members, or is she, she's sharing something with them? I mean, she's really pushing herself, right? She's really trying to live up to this ideal that she has, which is a little narcissistic, and that is in itself kind of artistic in a way. I mean, there's a quality to that.
Right.
So, for my
and even us,
movie was about trying to meet.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead. You go ahead.
All I was saying was that it seemed to me like this movie was really an exploration of what it means to shoot for something and to reach for something creatively, and then to find mixed results, I guess, ultimately you could say for her. I mean, when I was talking about how there's a tragic quality to her story, the real life of it is a little more tragic, just because it ends up being a little bit more drawn out, and because it's kind of operating a longer time frame, and it seems like there was just probably more, I don't want to say narcissism involved, but it's just, in this movie, events are condensed in a way that makes it funnier, but in her real life, like, the relationships are kind of drawn out in a longer and more sad way.
Yeah, but I mean, it is true that she did, like, her. See, I don't want to give anything away, but like all the major things, the big events happened in that 1 year, so it wasn't that condensed. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, apparently she'd been giving concerts for a while before that, in the same way that they were sort of leading to her giant concert. No, the Carnegie Hall concert was the one big thing, certainly.
Yeah.
But it just feels like in general, maybe she was sort of going down this path in a way that would have, like that maybe she was more self-aware of what was going on than they kind of suggest in the movie as well. I mean, there's a certain quality where it seems like she kind of knows that she's not popular, but she's still doing it regardless. Whereas in this movie, they're really playing up her ignorance.
Now, is that how you interpret the true story? Because I don't necessarily interpret it that way.
Based on what I was reading and based on some of the things that she seemed to have said during her lifetime about her reviews in general, she did also have a sense of other reviews from people besides just this one time for Carnegie Hall. So. Right.
No. Well, Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. It's your turn.
I was going to say, like, we look at these vanity projects. Like if they come out in movies, like whether it's Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet or, any number of these films that we look at as onanastic, we look at very negatively. And you look at this film and it sort of makes you wonder, like, if you can afford it. And, in her case, she gave a lot of money to the arts, she was a patron of the arts outside of herself. Yeah. So, maybe it's okay, to let her do what she wants. Like, she's earned it to some degree.
On a personal level, I don't have any problem with what I think it's great. And I think it's the movie really, to your point, it ends up celebrating her achievement as opposed to mocking her for it, which is really a great way for it to have handled it. And I think they made a point about it.
The movie, at least, I think, suggests that it could be celebrated. I don't know if the movie itself celebrates it. I think it just sort of suggests that maybe we could look at it that way. Because it's not about the quality of it, it's about the effort, It's about not sitting on your ass and waiting for something to happen to you. Did we lose him again? Davie, you there?
I'm here. I think that to me the movie was more about how you should treat the people you love and, the sort of ethical dilemma surrounding that. And I can't. The whole premise of this film is, not. I mean, it's just. I thought it was pretty bad. I mean, this is the worst movie I've seen all year. Just from a.
That's ridiculous.
It absolutely the worst movie.
That's crazy talk.
It's the worst movie I've seen all year.
For the quality of the performances and all that stuff, you're going to say this is the worst movie you've seen all year?
Because...
Why didn't you start out with that?
Yeah, I said it was utterly uninteresting and unfunny. I mean, it's a...
But I mean, like, you could have said the same thing about The Nice Guys. I mean, like, you can't... I mean, like, I can't believe you're going to say Star Trek Beyond, The Nice Guys, Keanu, The Fifth Wave are better than these films.
The Fifth Wave.
Allegiant.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Maybe Allegiant. All right.
I mean, we've seen some really bad films. Criminal. We reviewed a film called Criminal.
But all those are at least interesting premises to me. However poorly, to me, look, story is king. And I need something to care about. And this is bad. Look, and let me tell you, going into this.
Clearly, J Money and I disagree with you. And first of all, you can't say that it's bad. You say I feel it's bad or I don't like it. It's not, you can't just declare it bad.
But yet I do. No, look, I feel like I've been very fair to the film. And I think that I would be quite. Look, this is just something that I can't even begin to be interested in. But it was executed. It was well done, and if people won't like it, I get it. But to me, it's just not a premise for a movie. It's just awful.
I disagree with that entirely. It's not a premise for a movie. What does that even mean?
And you probably liked it better that time, JB. I said, to me, this is not a premise for a movie.
I did. I appreciated that. But what I don't understand is how you can say it is. It's well acted, well executed, and the worst movie I saw all year. That doesn't make any sense to me. But so little of what you say ever does. So on that note, I'm going to move on. We're going to be late for our Indie Spotlight. Our next current feature is a boxing film called Hands of Stone, and that's coming up on Monday, August 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Monday, August 29th, Hands of Stone is our next current feature. Keep online for that. But our evening rolls on with our Indie Spotlight coming up next. We go back to Iran for A Separation from 2011. Indie Spotlight coming up next. Tune in, go to Facebook and Twitter for the links. The three of us will see you shortly.